Welcome to this class. Now, in the previous class, we had a little bit of introduction to the join. So it's basically a general introduction to join. But in this class, we will take a much more, direct approach to basically see the first type of join, which is the inner join, right? So what we established in the previous class was we knew that the license table had more repo names, right, than the sample repos table. So maybe if we were to ask ourselves this question so we want to see for every repo name that, that basically has a watch count. For every repo name that is common in the two tables, right? We would like to have the license, and then we would also like to have the watch count. So now this is a very interesting case. So what we do in this type of case is we know that the repo name is common to the two tables, right? So we say select star. We just want to select everything. So now we will put from the first table, and then we will join, or we will say an inner join. But just know as well that a join is the same thing as an inner join. So if you do not specify what type of join you're using, then it's a default that join is equal to an inner join. So then we will bring the second table. So here we have the licenses, right? So the next table we want to quote here is basically the sample repos table. So we want to join the samples repo tables. And we're going to join it on. So basically, another very important thing to do when you're joining tables is to put an alias to the table. So, in the previous class, we kind of looked at how to put an alias to select. In the same fashion, you could put an alias to the tables you're joining. So you put as, so you put the alias, you name the table. So maybe you name the table LIC in this case, and then you name this other table, say SAM, right? So now, when you want to join, you have to join on the common field, right, for the two tables. So you have the lic.repo name. So you are joining on. And then we take this same part, put it here, but in this case now we change it to sum. But please note one thing. So now we are currently joining the repo name. It's common in this case that the same common field is named the same thing, but it doesn't always happen like that. So when we run this table, we will get our results. So what do we have? Now we have a new data set, right? So we have a new data set that has the repo name, and it basically has the two. So first you see the repo name of the license, and then you have the license, and then you have the repo name that is coming from the sample repos, which is basically named with an extra one or something like this. And it's kind of similar, right? It's the same. And then you have the watch count, right? So this basically has selected the rows. That is the cases where the repo name is the same to the repo name in the two tables. Now, if you notice, we have a second table, the second column. This repo name column is appearing twice. If we want to be more specific with selecting, the fields that we want to see, then maybe we could also, use the select function, properly here. So we could say, for instance, that we want to see the repo name, right? However, if we were to just write this repo name like this and we run the query, it will give us an error. Why? Because you see, in the two cases, you have this repo name. So what we do is we decide to select one of the cases that we want, and then we just put like LIC. I'm assuming we want to pick the one from the LIC, and then we will go ahead and basically select the other columns, which is basically watch count. And the watch count is coming from sample, so it's not as important to put the alias here as much as it is the case of the repo name. Why? Because the watch count is only available on one of the tables. Now, when you have the same field name available on two parts of the tables, then you have to make sure you do not make this mistake of not, including including the alias of the table you're selecting from. But best practices is to always put the alias anyways. So we then move to the next part. So we want to get the licenses from the license table, and then we say LIC dot license, right? And then here we have a complete query, right? And then when we run the tables, we basically get what we have gotten before, right? But there's a funny part here. Now, when we look at our answer, we notice something very interesting, right? So what we notice is that, we started from 400 K, in the sample repos, and we had even more rows in the licenses table. When we join these two, we notice that we even have less rows. So basically, because we're looking for the rows that are matching in the two tables, we now have a situation where we even have even lesser rows than we started with. Now, this is an indication that there's some data that is, in the first table. There's some data that is not available that basically is unique to different tables. So for instance, what it means is there's some data that is here. There's some repo names that is in the license table that is not in the sample repo tables, and vice versa as well. So this is the reason why we have even lesser rows, because we cannot match everything. So in the next class, we will see how we could use the different joins to basically satisfy different types of desires. So now we have our inner join, and we can be happy that we have mastered it. And then we will see in the next class. Thank you.